Welcome back to IGN Live at Comic-Con, brought to you by the all-new LG G4. I'm Max Scoville, this is Brian Altano, and this is Todd McFarlane.
Hey, gentlemen.
How you doing, man?
Good. How you guys doing?
I'm pretty happy right now, because not only are you Todd McFarlane, you are Todd McFarlane with McFarlane Toys in tow. I'm like, yes, I'm geeking out right now. This is cool.
Unreleased McFarlane Toys at that.
Correct. So, again, we got a new license, Game of Thrones. Some of you have heard about it.
Small show.
Right. So we got a big audience there, and so we had some of this for showing it for the first time over at Comic-Con. And we pulled it out of the cases to come over here. So I've got some empty cases over there for about an hour.
So you took this off of the show floor to bring it to us.
Yes,
I'm incredibly selfish about this, but thank you. That's awesome.
Well, I wanted to bring the big one. You saw the one with all the soldiers.
Yeah,
right?
man.
There's 100, but I go, that'd be too big.
I just picture there's a bunch of like crying people in Comic-Con right now that just they can't see this, but they came to see it, and it's because it's here. And I don't really care because I'm happy, and that's all that matters.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Now you've also got the 5- and 6-inch scale Walking Dead toys.
Well, for 20 years,
yeah.
you know, I mean, I started in comic books, did my comic books, still do it, you know, with Spawn and Image Comics. But eventually I started my own toy company. So we've been doing action figures for 20 years, right? And really it was based on the premise of one simple idea, which is, I don't get why they can't be better looking, right? I mean, I was a collector, I was a geek, but I couldn't buy them and accept that that's what they were. Not only the superhero ones, but the sports figures. I'm a sports geek, played Pac-10 baseball. And I'd look at the starting lineup stuff going, I don't get it. Can't somebody sculpt something better? And eventually I just started my own toy company. Started off with Spawn, eventually got some license for football and baseball and TV and show.
Hey, I mean, you changed the landscape for action figures. That was my jam in middle school and high school. Is like, I'm extremely happy with this, and it's really cool to see these up close and personal.
That's kind of the quest of an artist, right? Is to look at a problem in the world and interiorize it, and then say, I'm going to make this better. I'm going to fix this, and also in my own vision, which you did.
Look, I'll be the first to admit I've invented nothing, right? I just make stuff sexier, right? And so you could argue that Steve Jobs did the same thing with that phone, right? Still dialed, took pictures.
Yep.
You know, you could text, but it was like, wow, I get to touch it and expand it, right? So he just added something that wasn't there. So for me, all I was concerned about was, I don't understand if you're going to do the thing, why aren't there more rock textures on him, and why wouldn't they actually do more than just a orange plastic on it, right? So they cheated, and I now know why, being on that side of the fence, why they did, because it doesn't cost them any money.
Of course.
And so they would do, the average toy back then when I started would have about 17 what they call paint applications. My average toy was like close to 200,
oh my
right?
God.
And so each one of those applications costs money, which is why the big boys wouldn't do it, because why? They're selling to moms, and they're selling to 8-year-old kids or 6-year-old kids, where I'm selling to like 14 and up. And I can't cheat you guys, right? So if you're watching something and you're going, you know when I got it wrong. As a matter of fact, I get a lot of emails when we do get it wrong, because we're not perfect. And we're selling to an audience who's buying it for themselves, not for somebody else. Right?
Well, it's like you set the bar so high, right? And now you have to constantly iterate on that. And one of the ways you've kind of solved for that, looking at something specifically, Walking Dead and Game of Thrones are both universes that have a huge, huge followings, huge amount of characters too.
Right.
So that's like you could easily fill up your entire home with your figures had you made them a little bit bigger, but you've shrunk them down a little.
Yeah. Well, look at there's another aisle. It's called the construction aisle, right? It's the one that has brands like, you know, Mega Bloks and Legos and Creo and stuff like that. And we've all dealt with them, right, ever since we were a kid. But I just basically, it was deja vu all over again. I asked the same question. I don't understand why those blocks can't look cooler. I took my kid to the places where you have those big giant builds made out of 1 million, you know, blocks. Look, I'm impressed with it, except for the closer you get to those, they bitmap. And I was going, why don't they just have a block that curves? And I was always trying to smooth it all out so it looked like a statue, even though it was still 1 million pieces. So essentially, what we have here, which I have to do in education, this is still just building blocks like you're used to. The difference is, I just have covered up the nipples. I'm sort of the opposite of Hugh Hefner, right? I just go, no, no, no. I don't want all those little dents that are in there, because remember when we were kids, if you had a big plate with a bunch of dents and it was green, it was grass.
Yeah.
And if it was brown, it was dirt.
Yep.
And if it was gray, it was cement.
We had to fill in with our imaginations.
How does this work with the production? Because I imagine you've got pieces that can be used for more than one thing, so it's kind of repurposing that way?
Yeah, some of it, like if you're doing like cement and dirt and all that other, but essentially at the end, because you can see, I don't know if you got the camera, but if I turn it around, you see the obvious stuff that you're used to, right? Yeah. The difference is that I then put one more layer, which is a veneer on it, so you're plugging in one more brick piece. It just happens to have art on it, right? We're used to pieces that are either bright colors that are flat. I'm just sculpting art on one side of it, so when you plug it together, it actually looks like what it's supposed to.
That's awesome. Now, so the construction stuff there's one very strong market for that clearly, but there's this kind of growing thing for Lego minifig collectors, and you're kind of going after this too. Did I read right that you're doing blind bagged? Like single figures?
Yes, yeah. So all of them come because, again, if you're going to look at it, you can get the RV, let's say Dale's RV from AMC's Walking Dead. So you can get that, but we do these cool setups at the shows here, and we show it on our website. It looks really cool if you put like 100 sort of zombies around it, walkers around it. So I'm not going to tell you to go buy 100. I'm not going to force you to buy 100, but you can buy them individually and make it in big and small as you want. So we get people to send in their photos, and they've done some pretty cool custom stuff,
awesome.
right?
But also, like, the thing is like we're adults, and it's like maybe we have significant others who don't want an entire room filled with 6-inch action figures, but we do want to have some some Game of Thrones stuff on our desk. But there's this massive cast, so like this is an actual opportunity to be like, let's get the entire cast like this big.
Right. I keep saying I'd like to do a 3-stair sort of piece. It's about this big, and you could put easily 15 across each one of them, and you'd have 45 to 50 of the cast members, and you only need this much room in your bedroom or your den or your kitchen, wherever you want to put it. So it doesn't take a lot. I mean, you do that with 6-inch figures, it's going to take a lot more space.
It's everything, yeah. And the cool thing about both these universes is, like, kind of as you implied it, they both kind of scale based on how much you put in front of them. There's a whole new Walking Dead show on the way. So.
Well,
like, so you have Dale up there, and if you put 50 zombies in front of him, it's a war. But you take them all away, and he's kind of just bird watching. Like,
right? Because for this show, there's plenty of scenes where those setups were just a couple humans, and then there's some where they were overrun. I'll let you do it either way. I'm just going to give you the prop, right?
And it's kind of the same for Game of Thrones too, right?
Right. So again, besides the wide range of characters, and in this show especially, they actually changed their uniforms, right? I mean, Tyrion's had probably half a dozen to a dozen different costume changes. So not only can I do multiples of some of the popular characters in different uniforms, but these are shows that when you talk about certain scenes, the backgrounds matter, right? You talk about, Dale's RV, Herschel's farm place, you talk Woodbury. I mean, you start saying those words, people know what they mean. Terminus Tunnel, people know what they mean. The same here, the Iron Throne Room, everybody's been in it, right?
I think that should be your staircase there.
Right.
You
say the wall. You say the wall. We can't build the whole thing, but you say the wall. People know what it is, and they become almost characters themselves. Where as popular something like Batman is, I'd do Batman, I'd do the Batmobile, the Batcave. You'd have to. And then what? And then maybe Wayne Manor, and then what, right? I mean, so I understand there's a thing called Gotham City, but none of them are iconic places yet,
you've got some iconic places right here. Todd, thank you so much for taking the time to come by and show these off. They're really cool. When are these available?
The Walking Dead's already out in the marketplace. Okay. The RV will be out in about a week. On first look is at Walmart.com, and then the Game of Thrones comes out about the middle of November. So just before Black Friday, everybody build it. Let's go get them.
Well, thank you so much, guys. We've got plenty more Comic-Con stuff coming right up. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
IGN Live at Comic-Con is presented by Marvel's Ant-Man, in theaters July 17th, and the all-new LG G4. See the great, feel the great.